This impressive building is the Cathedral Church of Christ, Blessed Mary the Virgin in St. Cuthbert of Durham, commonly known as Durham Cathedral, and it's a World Heritage Site. Building began in 1093 on the orders of William of St. Caroleph and finished 40 years later. In 1080, William of Caroleph had been appointed the first Prince Bishop of Durham by King William the Conqueror. The Prince Bishops were all powerful and were responsible for protecting the people from the Scots. In its time, the cathedral has been a monastery, a prison, and of course a place of worship and pilgrimage. During the English Civil War, the cathedral was closed for worship. In 1650, Oliver Cromwell used it to imprison 3,000 Scottish prisoners of war from the Battle of Dunbar. In 2013, 2 mass graves of soldiers were found during the building work on the Palace Green Library. Several parts of the cathedral have been used in TV series, as well as 2 of the Harry Potter films. If visitors require refreshment before entering the cathedral, they can visit the Cafe on the Green, which is opposite the cathedral and used to be an almshouse. This was to give the paupers a place to live. This dining room was a bedroom for 8 persons. On this main entrance door is the sanctuary knocker, so called because any fugitive who knocked and was admitted was granted 37 days sanctuary. After that time, the fugitive had to either face the accusers or be given safe conduct to the coast, usually the port of Hartlepool. From there, the fugitive had to embark on the first ship that was sailing to any destination abroad. 2 monks always kept watch on the door from rooms immediately above the entrance. The rooms no longer exist, but this old picture shows where they were. The right of sanctuary was abolished in 1624. The sanctuary knocker, which is now on the door, is a replica. The original knocker is now on display in the cathedral's open treasure museum. Just inside the main door, and at the back of the nave, is a permanent black line built into the floor. When this cathedral was a Benedict monastery, women were not allowed to cross this line, and so were barred from the nave or any other part of the building. This edict applied to all women regardless of who they were. For instance, when in 1333 the Queen of England Philippa crossed the line, the monks asked her to leave and contacted her husband, King Edward III. The king sided with the monks, and so the Queen had to leave. After Henry VIII ordered the dissolution of the monasteries in 1539, the Black Line rule was no longer enforced. Here in the Galilee Chapel is the tomb of the Venerable Bede. Bede was a monk who became famous as a great scholar. He was the first person to write the history of England. He also documented the activity of St. Cuthbert. He was the first person to use the letters AD, short for the Latin Anno Domini, after the birth of Christ, when recording dates. Bede was born in the year 672 AD at Jarrow, England, and died of natural causes in 735. It was not until the year 1370 that his bones were placed in a shrine. During the Reformation, the shrine was destroyed, after which his bones were interred in the chapel. Again, in 1831, his bones were dug up and reburied in this tomb. Among the statues and artefacts is the simple work called the Last Supper table, created by sculptor Colin Wilborn in 1987, when he was an artist in residence at the cathedral. It is made from wood from a 500-year-old oak tree. Although this window commemorates the RAF, the memorial below it pays tribute to all the armed forces of Great Britain. Here, and of particular local interest, is the Durham Light Infantry Chapel. In 1923, this chapel was known as the Chapel of Our Lady of Bolton until it was renamed to honour the Durham Light Infantry, and now the 37 battalions of the DLI are commemorated. In 1968, the regiment was merged with the new Light Infantry Regiment. More recently, it has been joined with others to form the Rifles. When you cross the women's black line at the back of the nave and see the high altar at the other end, behind the altar is the Neville screen. The screen, made from the stone brought from the French town of Caen, was a gift from the powerful Neville family. It was erected on site by the King's Masons between the years of 1372 and 1380 AD. Originally there were 107 coloured statues on these empty plinths. The story goes that the monks had 3 days' notice that Henry VIII's men were coming to rob the cathedral of its jewels and artefacts, so the monks hid the 107 statues, and nobody has ever been able to find them since. Between 2 pillars in the nave is the tomb of Ralph Neville, the 2nd Baron of Raby, and his wife Alice. They were the first people to be buried in the cathedral who were not members of the clergy. Lord Ralph led the English forces to victory against King David of Scotland at the Battle of Neville's Cross in 1384. The tomb was vandalised, some say during the English Civil War, while others prefer to blame the Scottish prisoners when they were held in the cathedral in the winter of 1650-51. As you can see, the effigies of the Lord and Lady placed on top of the tomb have been badly mutilated. This tomb is the resting place of another powerful member of the Neville family. Here lies the son of Lord Ralph, being Lord John Neville, the 3rd Baron of Raby. This lord also fought at the Battle of Neville's Cross. He was a captain under the command of his father. He held many important positions of authority throughout Europe, representing England. He also fought in many more battles. He was married twice and had 9 children. The tomb also contains his first wife, Maud. This tomb was also vandalised, but has been partially reconstructed, and the headless figure that are sculpted around the sides are said to be of his children. The figures of Lord John and his wife on top of the tomb have been badly mutilated. At the back of the nave, and near to the main entrance door, is the font, which with the fabulous wooden cover was made about 1670. The doves on top and inside the cover are meant to be a symbol of the Holy Spirit, which comes to people being baptised. Further along the nave are these steps leading up to the bishop's throne. The new Bishop of Durham uses this seat when he makes his first appearance in the cathedral. but thereafter sits in a stall in the choir. The bishop's throne was built by Bishop Thomas Hatfield in the 14th century. He also built his own tomb beneath the throne. He also founded Durham College, which is now Trinity College, Oxford. He was great friends with King Edward III, and they fought together at the Battle of Crecy in 1346. His tomb is the only non-royal tomb to bear the royal likeness, and the royal coat of arms by permission of the king. The figure on top of the tomb is the only one to escape destruction after the Reformation. Across the way is another tomb. This one contains the remains of Bishop Joseph Lightfoot, who was a celebrated theologian and who was involved in teaching and was a great scholar himself and learned the biblical languages. He was made Bishop of Durham in 1879 and remained as such until his death in 1889. He also became chaplain to Prince Albert and honorary chaplain to Queen Victoria. A little further along are the choir stalls. The medieval seating was replaced with the present ones in the 1660s. Above is the main organ console, which is hidden from view. The cathedral has two organs, the main one built in 1876 by Henry Willis and maintained by a local firm, Harrison & Harrison. The second and smaller instrument is the Los Dio organ, which has the advantage of being able to be moved easily, so it can be used in events in the nave, the Galilee Chapel and the chapter house. This is the chapel of the 9 altars, so called because so huge were the crowds of pilgrims to the shrine of St. Cuthbert in the Middle Ages. This caused great congestion as the pilgrims all wanted to pray. The chapel was built with 9 altars to speed up the flow of people. The altars were removed during the Reformation. Today there are only 3 altars in use. One of the beautiful sights is the rose window, which has a circumference of 90 feet and depicts Christ at the centre with the 12 disciples around him. Another interesting item is the statue of Bishop William van Mildert, who was largely responsible for founding of Durham University in 1832. He was the last Prince Bishop and died in 1836. The chapel also displays this imposing modern sculpture called the Pietra, a Latin word which translates in English to pity. It is made in beechwood by a local artist who lives near the cathedral. It depicts Mary, the mother of Christ, looking down on her son Jesus, who is laying on the floor. If you feel peckish or thirsty, there is a restaurant available and it's close to the cloister. It offers a wide range selection of hot and cold snacks as well as homemade cakes and beverages. It is renowned for its Sunday lunches. The restaurant is available for private hire to all levels of catering, from simple buffets to very fine dining. Near the restaurant is the shop which sells items from local artists such as placemats, St. Cuthbert's cross pendant, as well as a rose window pendant. There are also novelty items such as this, a model of the cathedral made out of coal. Also available is the largest collection of books in northern England related to theological matters. Close to the shop is a replica of the cathedral constructed with Lego bricks. It was a fundraising event, with 1 brick being added for every £1 donated. A total of 300,000 bricks were used. Work started in 2013 and it took 3 years to complete. The model stands 5 feet 6 inches high and is 12 feet 6 inches long, and its width is 5 feet. Here, situated behind the high altar, is the shrine of St. Cuthbert, north of England's greatest saint. Regrettably, it is not the same as it was when it was built in 1104 AD. Then it was smothered in jewels and semi-precious stones. During the Reformation in the 1530s, and on the orders of King Henry VIII, the shrine was destroyed and all of its jewels were handed over to the king. In 1542, the remnants of the shrine was replaced with the simple marble slab. The stones around the slab are a part of the original construction. St. Cuthbert died in 687 AD after living first as a monk and later the Bishop of Lindisfarne, known as Holy Island. The original coffin and other relics can be seen at the Open Treasure Museum, the latest project in the cathedral, but it will cost you £7.50 admission fee. So ends this visit to this glorious building. There is a lot more to see which this video doesn't cover. Maybe we will make another video to cover the rest of the building. Many visitors come to admire the architecture and others to feel the religious atmosphere. Actually, a lot of English history can be learnt by asking questions to the knowledgeable stewards on duty. Even if you have no religious feelings, there is plenty to admire if you pay a visit.